Hi guys, welcome to episode 204 of Macho Grande. I'm Pete.
And I am Matt.
And this is our end of year special. We've made it through 2018 and today we're going to run down our top 10 albums of the year. Plus we're going to read out all your lists. One of you is going to win the goodie bag of prizes. So yeah, and just have a bit of a chat about the year.
Yeah.
Have you had a good Christmas?
Fine. Yep. It was quiet and fine.
Good.
And lots of dogs.
Lots of dogs?
In the house.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. It was all good.
Have you got a Christmas tipple on the go, or are we too past Christmas now?
I have a strong coffee on the go, and that's as Christmassy as my tipple is getting today.
It's Sunday, and I don't have to be doing anything later, so I'm going to get nicely drunk. I'm going to kick things off with a cheeky pressure drop.
Excuse me?
It's called Breaking Out of My Tomb, this beer.
Wow.
So I've got this, a 4-pack of punk and some whiskey, so we're good.
Good God. Well.
And just so that we mentioned it today, have you watched Black Mirror's Bandersnatch?
I have indeed.
Because I know you're a big fan. Now, no spoilers, but if anybody out there hasn't watched this yet, it is a shitload of fun. I'm guessing you enjoyed it. We've not spoken about it, so...
I have, and I think I've managed to experience. I've gone through basically it's a choose your own adventure. For anyone who doesn't realize,
it's on Netflix.
Yeah, and basically there's several different outcomes and multiple different tracks you can sort of follow. And I've done everything bar one. I haven't seen one scene. Or, well, actually, no, there's 2 scenes I haven't seen.
Right, yeah, so, I mean, anybody out there, watch it and then really play around with the multiple permutations of the endings, because it is well worth. You get way more out of it if you watch, like, the other endings as well. I don't know, is there 5? Five main...
There's 5 definitive endings, and then there's also 3 false endings.
Oh, okay.
And there's also, well, in that, the definitive endings happen and then credits happen with them. The false endings happen, but then it gives you the option to either watch credits or go back to the choice. So you can choose the other option, which leads to an actual definitive ending.
Yeah.
And then there's also different tracks that you choose during it that unlock those different endings, because there's several different mysteries that you can choose to go down.
It's really well done, and it's really seamless as well.
Yeah, it was really cleverly done. I mean, obviously it's sort of frustrating in that there's no sort of... I mean, anyone who knows Black Mirror knows that they don't do happy endings.
No, I think I've watched the one that is the most happy of the few. I mean, I still wouldn't call it a happy ending, but it's like it sort of moves to a happier place, sort of.
Yeah, I mean,
in the credits,
the challenge is getting 5 out of 5 for your game.
Yeah, I got that one.
Yeah, but obviously that's not a sort of like not everyone wins in that scenario. So
it's your turn to start off this year, mate.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, sweet Moses.
It'll be interesting to see this year, like, how many clashes, because we usually clash on 1 or 2 things. Now, funnily enough, we've only had 1 year. We've never had a year where there weren't any clashes. But in 2012, we had 1 clash. That's the lowest. And then in 2016, we had 6 clashes, which is the most we've ever had. And we tend to average out at about 4.
Right.
So, but this year, I don't know, there's been a lot of new bands, and then there's been quite a lot of old bands bringing out big albums. So, and I'm really intrigued this year as to what's in your list. And as usual, we've not discussed it at all. Over the last few months, we've kind of gone silent, as to what we've been listening to.
Yeah, and then it's just that usual sort of like trying to sort of like one up each other. It is sort of like it's interesting to sort of see if we've discovered things that the other person hadn't heard.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But I suppose what I have just done the listeners' definitive chart. I mean, over the course of the show, we will be working through listeners' choices. So that has in itself led me to sort of realize, I don't know if I'm happy with some of my choices, because there's some good stuff in the definitive chart. And as far, I mean, like, certainly the definitive chart version is an interesting read. I don't know if it fairly reflects, because it's obviously just done by sort of vote, and I've just tallied everything up and put everything in a running order. Yeah, it's certainly an interesting listener chart. I'll give it that.
To be honest, I've not properly read through them. I just kind of scanned through them when they came in, but I've not. So I thought I'd wait for today, because I know it's you that normally tallies it all up. So
yeah, and what I was going to say is sort of last minute cock things up slightly and have, in my sort of tradition of the last couple of years, I've done a sort of, my number 10 has been a split choice.
Oh, I thought you might do that. I've got used to that now.
Yeah, but...
And I'm waiting for you to just forget one of your favourite bands as well.
Yeah, but then I've managed to cock up my chart, so there is no split this year.
Oh, what?
Although, I could have, but it didn't seem right. But so kicking off my one is number 10 is Our Hollow, Our Home.
Ooh.
And the album In Moment, In Memory. Just a band I really like. Saw them at the start of this year, somewhere around March, I think it was, just locally in Norwich on their tour, and that was their last tour of the previous album before they went into the studio. And then just coming up to the end of this year, they released the second album, which is this one, and I just think it's a solid metalcore album. Some really good tracks on it, great choruses, and they're a really good up and coming British hardcore band. The sort of band that would give Bury Tomorrow a good run for their money, I think. And whenever they've sort of put out, it made my chart over the Bury Tomorrow one, for example, especially because I think that this is a stronger album. I mean, if it were put up against Bury Tomorrow's previous album, I think this album would struggle, but I do believe this album is superior to the 2018 Bury Tomorrow album, and for that reason I think people need to check it out. It's really, really good and worth checking out. And like I said, they're at that point, they've kind of written that sort of album where this is the one that could sort of break them through, so more people should really get into this.
I haven't listened to it, so that's a good start. I will, in this little lull between New Year and the start of the next show, that can be in my pile.
Cool. Well, yeah. Well, like I said, the cool thing is they've got that really huge, sort of crushing metalcore sound that whenever metalcore is done right.
Yeah, well, I remember liking the previous one.
Yeah, and this is kind of like I said, I mean, for me, they do follow a sort of Bury Tomorrow kind of blueprint in that they've got the real good, clean backing vocals, or, clean vocals, choruses, and then a really good, aggressive frontman. And then, like I said, they've got that sort of wall of sound, that metalcore crushing wall of sound and chugs. And yeah, I just think this is a really solid effort from the lads. And the track I've gone with to kick things off is Wraiths.
Right, so that was your number 10, Our Hollow, Our Home. My number 10 is Rollo Tomasi. Their album was called Time Will Die and Love Will Bury It. And this came out back in March on Holy Raw, and this really took me by surprise because Rollo Tomasi have been around for ages. And I've never really paid that much attention. I've seen them live a bunch of times, and I've just never really... I mean, even looking at on my hard drive, I don't actually have that many of their albums. And from the minute I put this on and I heard her... I don't know how much she does the soft vocals, but she does the wonderful soft vocals on this. And then obviously goes nasty as well. Now, I don't know how much that figures in the back catalogue. I'm looking forward to delving in. But that instantly hooked me because all the music is quite dark and they've got some electronics in there. And straight away, I was just hooked. And then, of course, it goes super heavy, super nasty, and they have their, spazzier moments. And as we said earlier on in the year, we're now missing the Dillinger Escape Plan. And if there was ever a time for a band to sort of step up into that kind of mantle, these guys, they have it. And for me, this album, start to finish, is just an absolute journey and doesn't let up. I think the whole thing is incredible. And I cannot wait to now go back into the back catalogue because I've been told by a few people that the best is... this isn't the best. This is good, but there are better albums in the back catalogue. So I'm very intrigued now to kind of go back.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think that the first couple of tracks on this album are a real kind of they lull you in because that part of the album really does surprise you.
Yeah, well, it starts off so soft, obviously. It really does.
And it eases you in, and then before you know it, they're in their sort of spazzy mathcore.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's a really strong Rollo Tomasi album. It didn't make my list, but it was in my bubbling under.
Oh, okay, cool.
I really like this album. I think it's one of their best. But
right.
There are some of the earlier albums where
I'm not sure I'm gonna like the really early stuff.
But again, I think it sort of depends on the mindset you're in, because I think if you like this, there will be a door into one of the other albums, which will then lead into it further. It's the same way with Dillinger. It just will be right. If you're in the right mindset, you'll love them. Otherwise, if you're in the wrong mindset, all you'll hear is noise and you just won't get it. Yeah. Because Dillinger, again, Rollo Tomasi, same sort of thing. It can be scary or insane, but there's stuff in there. So
I'd like to go for track 4. This is called The Hollow Hour. 10, Rollo Tomasi, Time Will Die, and Love Will Bury It.
Nice. Right, number 9 for me is The Ocean, Phanerozoic, Part 1, Paleozoic. This is one of those albums that was just a sort of sleeper with me.
Right.
It just sort of kept growing the more I listened to it, because it was just like, I think it first sort of just randomly started playing, when I just left my playlist playing, and all my recent sort of downloads or whatever, and or recent ads to iTunes, and it was just like, oh, what is that? Oh, right, I forgot what, because obviously we played them a few months ago as well.
Yeah, I was just going to look at which track we played, actually.
Like, obviously we've seen The Ocean several times, and I've kind of dipped in and out of their back catalogue, because they've got quite a long, extensive run of things.
There is a lot to get through, and there are some highs and some lows, I would say.
Yeah, and it can also be rather intimidating. Yeah,
especially when you get the double albums and stuff.
Yeah, which, again, this I assume is going to be a part 1. I imagine that there will be a 2. It could even be a 3 or a 4, however they're going to do it. But the fact it was sort of 7 tracks, it was less intimidating. And again, it sort of came on while I was working, and it was just sort of playing through. And it sort of played through the whole thing. And I was just sort of like, that was really, really good. And yeah, it's just been one I've come back to as a result of that. And again, I think if I had actively tried to listen to it, as I've done in the past on their albums, it would have intimidated me, because their albums have always seemed rather daunting, but it just sort of came on and eased me in. And yeah, I think it's a really solid album. What track did we play before? Right,
we played Permian, The Great Dying.
Oh, right, okay, good, because my favourite track is track 3, or Dovicium, the Galatian of Gondwana. They have some insane titles.
Yeah, they certainly do. This was so I really like this. However, it's in my list of I really wish I'd listened to it more, and I just hadn't listened to it enough time. I'm still listening to it. This is definitely a grower.
All right, I thought you were about to say it was features in your chart later on.
Nope.
Okay, well, in that case, yeah, like I said, the whole album's really good, but this is my favourite track on the album. So yeah, or Dovicium, the Galatian of Gondwana.
The cracks were invisible in the beginning. Now we're staring deep down into the clouds of the earth. We've been watching this now, tectonic plates slowly drifting apart. And when the first cracks appear on the surfaces, we had surrounded our homes to reality. I should have turns on you. After you, it sees everything that was not laid to the floor or locked away. And now you're waving the flag of justice and equity. The devil takes the hindmost. You show your true colors only in my absence.
Alright, so that was The Ocean. My number 9. Let me just bring my list back up. This is Greyhaven with the album called Empty Black, which came out through Equal Vision again earlier in the year, sort of around mid-March. And this band, they'd been on a load of really cool lineups in the States. Like, they were the opening band on a bunch of decent tours, and I sort of kept seeing the name, and then we heard those couple of singles and I really liked it, and it has that instant kind of scratchy Every Time I Die, bit of Norma Jean, some big choruses. But the album, I don't know if, did you actually get through this properly? Because I know I talked about them earlier in the year and you hadn't heard it properly at that point.
Yeah, again, I think it's just been one that got lost in the mix and I never really got back to.
I think you will really dig this because it is catchy but heavy, but it feels quite vibrant and new. Like, it's got a really good energy about it. It's quite short and sweet, and they don't sort of overstay the songs. The frontman has got a fantastic voice, and they play to his strengths. So, like, there are some really good, catchy, like, choruses. I thought we played a track, but I went back through our playlist and I couldn't find it. So unless we played it on one of the festival shows, because I didn't write the track listings down on those, so I'm not entirely sure. But honestly, I really think you'll dig this album, mate. So it was on, Equal Vision as well, which is quite cool to see.
Cool. Well, again, like I said, I think it was just, again, it was one of those ones that I saw appearing a lot in the listeners' charts.
Right.
And it just hasn't been one that I've then felt able to justify going back to at this late stage.
No, well, that's what I said to you on the last show. I just didn't bother trying to cram anything. I went back and listened to albums that I had been listening to earlier in the year to see where they now stood up. But I thought, do you know what? There's no point trying to cram in a bunch of stuff I've not even listened to once. So
yeah, I mean, it's just unfortunately the way things are. Like I said, especially compiling the final lists was just like, oh, maybe I should go back. I was just like, no, I've already made things difficult enough for myself.
So I apologise if we've already played this. I thought we had, but I've no idea. This is absolutely my favourite song on the album. This is called Echo and Dust Part 1.
I've lost your echo.
teeth are gold.
Right, so that was my number 9, Greyhaven. Shall we get into one of our listeners' top 10s?
Yes.
Now, I bet we haven't got these in the same order. Mine are just sort of in a inbox folder.
I just have them in the order that they were delivered, I'm afraid.
That could be the same, though. So my top one is from Jay.
My top
Jay
one
Houlihan.
is from Terry.
That's not the order they came in.
Yeah,
Unless
it
yours
is.
is in reverse order.
Oh, you're doing it as in the
Recent.
most recent?
Yeah.
I've got that, but I was doing it from the delivered order.
Right, do you want to do Jay or Terry first, then?
Yes.
All right, I'll read Jay's then.
Okay.
Hi, guys. Love the podcast, as always. Here's my top 10 for the past year. Number 1, Rivers of Nihil. Is that how you pronounce Nihil? Nihil?
Yeah, Rivers of Nile.
Nihil. Where owls know my name. And he says, a huge leap from their previous 2 albums and transcends the trappings of the death metal genre itself. A landmark release for any metal fan, this deserves to be mentioned alongside modern greats like From Mars to Sirius or Crack the Sky, such as the jaw-dropping quality of every song on the album. If there is any justice in the world, they'll land a high-profile support, similar to System of a Down having Skeleton Witch as a support act that pushes Rivers of Nihil down the ears of more people. Number 2, The Ocean. Phanerozoic. 1, Paleozoic. Utterly mind-blowing, making 60 minutes feel like half an hour is a talent. Fell short of making my number 1 for the following reasons. They're such a strong band, so expectations are higher, but what they released was what you would expect of an Ocean release. No surprises. The album ends abruptly. I strongly suspect that with the second album, listening to them as one piece will be the definitive way to experience Phanerozoic. 3, Night Verses from the Gallery of Sleep. Like the soundtrack to a film that doesn't exist, writing songs and making you feel like you're in a club venue with one song and at a 10,000 capacity arena the next. Number 4, Harm's Way, Post-Human. Hardcore that goes beyond. Hints of industrial, Godflesh influence very apparent, but the mix of genres works. Just like Not Loose can be on a hardcore bill or a metal bill, Harm's Way have that same flexibility in their appeal to fans of multiple genres. It's not surprising they've supported a traditional old-school death metal band, Cannibal Corpse, yet you wouldn't be shocked to see them on a bill with Code Orange or Vane. Number 5, Monuments. How do you say that? Phronesis.
Yes.
I don't know what that means either. Phronesis.
Yeah, Phronesis.
Fun, bouncy, upbeat tracks that move you. Groove and hooks will always be more memorable than show-off fretboard gymnastics. For my money, this band writes better songs than Periphery, but Monuments do need to drop the teen angst lyrics. Looking at you, Stygian Blue. Number 6, Clutch, Book of Bad Decisions. Maybe not the band's best work, but still a solid record. Praise be to the track In Walks Barbarella for blessing us with the catchphrase Weaponized Funk. Number 7, Unearth, Extinctions. With Watchers of Rule and now this release, Unearth have resurrected like a phoenix from the flames. You would not think this was album number 7, such is the energy, piss and vinegar. Impossible not to move to this. Number 8, Ishan, Amur. I'm not sure how you say that either. Amur. An impressive array of songs, different styles in each track, the result of someone having a vision of what they want and following through on it. Number 9, Yob, Our Raw Heart. A stunning piece of work. How to have a multitude of influences and not sound like you're simply copying them all. Near-death experience becomes life-affirming. And number 10 is Tosca, Fire by the Silos. Maybe not as relaxed as Ode, but the dark vibe mirrors our dark times. A soundtrack to listen to while reading 1984, Brave New World, or V is for Vendetta. So there we go. Thank you very much, Jay. As always, great list. That Rivers of Nihil album is really good. It's not in my list. The production alone is so good.
Yeah, that has been in my Bubbling Under, and it's actually been in several other listeners' charts and Bubbling Unders as well. It's that one was recommended to me by a friend, so it's interesting to see that one's getting such a good sort of following.
Right, where are we up to? Your number 8?
My number 8 is Black Peaks, All That Divides. I think for me, this was a tough one to try and get any higher in such a competitive year, because obviously their debut album was it was both our number ones, and it was certainly around the industry. It did seem to be a sort of chart topper as well. And this is a great album, and it's a great follow-up. I just couldn't get it any higher with the other albums that were in this chart.
This is in my list, and it is slightly higher, but you're on 8, and I've put this at 6, so I'll just deal with this now as well, and we'll just play a track now, shall we, do you think?
Yeah, okay.
Because it's not like it's in my top 3 or anything.
Yeah, because, well, basically, and again, I mean, I don't know about you, I assume you've hit the same kind of roadblock in that the albums ahead of this were you know, in any other year, if the albums ahead of this hadn't come out, Black Peaks would have been a lot higher.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, this was, you know, their first album was both our number 1s, and now they've brought out a new album, which is every bit as good, if not better. Yeah, it's lower down the list, but I think that also stems from the fact that both you and I like new stuff a lot, you know,
Yes.
so like I was saying earlier, you know, there's just some big favourite bands this year that haven't made my top 10, and it's not that I don't like those albums, they're brilliant, it's just I tend to gravitate, I feel more excited about a new album by a new band. So,
yeah.
And yeah, like you say, it just kind of got pushed down a little bit, that's all.
I think I sort of hit, like, we had the chance to see Black Peaks several times this year.
Yeah.
And I think I was kind of, like, spoiled for just how good they are live as well. You kind of take it for granted because they're phenomenal live.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just literally, I mean, certainly when you hear the remaining albums for me anyway, the remaining albums in the chart, you're kind of like, yeah, you're competing against some big albums. And this is great. It just, again, if anyone doesn't know Black Peaks, go check out these 2 albums because they are an amazing band.
Absolutely stunning, yeah.
And yeah, I think that, like you say, it's building on the amazing debut. I still don't feel like they've hit their creative peak, no pun intended. And you know, the diversity of this band, the fact that they can play on, you know, a bill with Architects or
Deftones.
Yeah. But like, you know, the fact that they can sort of transcend those different barriers and genres.
I hope they can get much, much bigger than they are. Because they certainly deserve it, and they're a hard-working band. And with 2 albums of this caliber, we said this in the review, the trouble with this kind of, you know, just sort of intelligent, alternative, but heavy music is you're slightly in this weird groove of people that like that.
Yeah.
That's the trouble, and it's what happens. And it needs the industry and the fans to help push this band.
And it also, that extra sort of like, I suppose to sort of hit the cliche, that X factor is also, you know, the kind of the look of the band, the way they play their instruments, their stage presence, things like that. And that does translate to a different variety of audiences.
Oh, yeah,
like they
absolutely.
can play with doom bands, they can play with metal bands, they can play with some indie bands, because the look of the band and their stage charisma, plus this unknown factor of, like, I've seen them play tiny venues and then I've seen them play massive stages, and they're amazing on both for completely different reasons.
Yeah.
So they do, I mean, they certainly deserve to hit that next echelon. I definitely do think they've plateaued, or they've hit their, like I said, hit their glass ceiling at all. Yeah, I still think that there's plenty of scope for these guys to keep growing and growing.
No, absolutely.
And I look forward to seeing they continue to sort of create, because 2 albums in and I'm already like, yep, you got me. What you got for me there?
yeah, totally. Now we played not the Midnight Sun.
Okay.
So I mean, I'd put down Can't Sleep or Eternal Light, but the whole album is just wicked. So.
Okay, yeah, I had Aether or Eternal Light, so let's go with Eternal Light.
Cool. Okay. Right, so that was your number 8, and it was also my number 6. So my number 8, I've got to thank you for this band, and this is Limbs with an album called Father's Son. Now, is this in your list?
It is.
Okay, so we'll save the track for a bit later, unless it's really close.
No, mine is, what are we on? We're 8.
Yeah, 8.
Yeah, mine's higher.
Okay, so I'll kind of save this for later, but yeah, Limbs, Father's Son. It came out in April via Unified. We'll have a chat about that a bit later on.
Okay.
So let's do another listener mail, because we've both just done our 8s, haven't we?
Yes. Well, seeing as you didn't get a chance to speak, do you want to read out another one?
Yeah, okay.
Terry?
All right, so this is from Terry. He just keeps it nice and simple. Here's the 10. 10, Bleed From Within, Era. Number 9, Yob, Our Raw Heart. 8, Perfect Circle, Eat the Elephant. 7, Conjurer, Maya. 6, Palm Reader, Braille. 5, Spanish Love Songs, Schmaltz. 4, Black Peaks, All That Divides. 3, Night Verses from the Gallery of Sleep. 2, Rivers of Nile, Where Owls Know My Name. And number 1, The Ocean. Here we go again. Phanerozoic. 1, Paleozoic. So thanks, Terry. Cheers for that.
Yeah, thank you very much.
I need to listen. Like, Yob has appeared twice already, and although I did give it like a couple of listens when it came out, again, it's one of those ones that I've just not listened to enough. So yeah, I need to get into
it's the same
because I put Yob in my. I don't think it was last year's, but the year before, I put Yob in my top 10. Fucking brilliant album.
It was the Yob for me. The ones that I couldn't go back to were the Yob and Rivers of Nile. And I had mentioned Rivers of Nile a couple of months ago on the show.
Yeah, you did.
That had been in my listening pile, and again, it just sort of got lost in the mix of trying to pin things down to a chart of 10.
Right. Yeah.
But I think that album's really good, and it's good to see it featuring so much.
Right. Okay, so you're number 7.
7. Okay, so this is a bit of a curveball. It wasn't a band that were on my radar, and it wasn't something I was expecting to like as much as I did. But it's the new album from Can't Swim.
Oh shit! I forgot all about that. I've not listened to it other than that first listen. I completely forgot to go back and listen to that shit.
Because I think you had their last album.
We've had previous stuff. We have played them before, but and again, I've said this before. I know this is stupid and this is my fault, but the name Can't Swim. I just conjured up one of those shit kind of, like water parks. And those kind of crappy pop punk. And for some reason, a couple of years ago, I just decided in my head Can't Swim were one of those bands. And of course, they're not at all.
No.
But for that reason, I just hadn't properly listened to like any of the previous stuff that well. And then I was really blown away when I heard this. And then, I just forgot to kind of have it on repeat.
For me, it was, like I said, it wasn't on my radar, but I just kept coming back to it because there's just so this album's definitely more emotionally aggressive compared to the last album. It's a bit more of that kind of grungy kind of vibe, but they're not a grunge band in that. So like I said, I think there's a lot more of a sort of morose and a melancholic vibe hanging over this album compared to the last album's a bit more upbeat.
Right.
Obviously, they do have that kind of like upbeat vocal style in that, I think almost everyone in the band sings at some point. So they've got like 5 different harmonies going at times. So that adds to this upbeat vibe. But when you listen to the lyrics and certainly what the kind of heavier side of this album, it's a lot more sort of emotionally bleak. I mean, just that just really grabbed me. And the songs are so catchy. I kept coming back to this album, and I just think it is so good.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go back to this. Yeah. Yeah,
and again, I think this is one of those albums that, like, they kind of cross genres. So, like, if you like the new Thrice album or Black Peaks album or even sort of the New Architects album, there's that kind of cross of different genres and styles in this album. I think it's got a wide appeal. They're just that sort of unknown at the moment, even though I think this is like the third album in a row they pumped out in 3 years. It's like the third album in 3 year period, which is kind of crazy, and the songwriting caliber is just stunning. So I've got my favorite track on this album is track 2, and it's my pick called My Queen.
Pull the shade and trap the light in. Illuminate the room so I can see your face. I need to hear it in person. I need to know it was worth it. Took the risk and came on over. Keeping count of everything I didn't say. Heard you breathing it lower. The room was getting smaller as you threw your arms around me way too fast. And questioned if I thought it all would last. Blocking out our future with my past. If ignorance is bliss, then why'd you ask? If it still haunts me, it still haunts me. Hung the pictures that you painted, hallucinations of a love that was never there. Thought you start getting nervous. You put a gloss on the surface of my favorite thing you ever drew. You said it needed more, shaded in the grays, and then you hung it on your door. If nothing's ever finished, it ends up on the floor, just like we did, just like we did. Threw your arms around me way too fast. And questioned if I thought it all would last. Blocking out our future with my past. If ignorance is bliss, then why'd you ask? If it still haunts me, it still haunts me. I think about it when I'm falling asleep. All the parts of you that I couldn't keep. My nightmares torment me much worse the longer you're not here. I keep my energy the lowest I can, and try and think about where all this began. For heaven's sake, could I forget that you found someone new? I hope to God you're haunted by this too. Threw your arms around me way too fast. And questioned if I thought it all would last. Blocking out our future with my past. If ignorance is bliss, then why'd you ask? It still haunts me. You
So that was Can't Swim. My number 7 is Conjurer with the album called Maya, which is also Holy Raw. Like, Holy Raw as a label have absolutely smashed it. I've got 3 albums on my list from Holy Raw, which is ridiculous. So, and they're all very different as well, which just goes to show the strength of that label. So, yeah, it came out in March, and, you know, we've spoken about Conjurer a lot. We have played them at least twice on the show, and we reviewed Maya early in the year, so I don't need to bang on about this too much, but
We interviewed them, in fact, over the summer as well.
was that was it 2000 Trees?
Yeah, 2000 Trees. I saw them at the start of the year supporting, on tour with Loathe. And,
Oh, that's right, yeah.
who were they supporting?
And I had them at the club last year with Atan, and they headlined, and it was just, that was before Maya had come out, and it was just amazing. Really cool.
Yeah. Oh, I'm trying to remember who else I saw. It was with Loathe, Gideon, and they were playing. I can't remember who the headliner was, but like it was a proper sort of like Holy War lineup.
Is this in your list?
It was just in my bubble.
Okay, right, fine. Okay, so we've already played Not Hollow and we played Wretch last year. So we're going to do Choke. Going to go for that one. And yeah, we've spoken about them a lot, so I won't bang on about this. But this, you know, it's a British band, and it just has a bit of everything. It has the weight of like Neurosis, and then it has the speed of something like Converge at times. For a debut album, my God, this is strong. You know, I cannot wait to see where they're going to go with this.
Yeah, I mean, I think we spoke about it when we interviewed them as well. Just the sort of like the musicianship and the songwriting capacity of this band at such a young age is kind of mind-blowing. So yeah, I think they've got a bright future ahead.
Yeah, well impressed with it. And again, like you were saying earlier, Conjurer, weirdly, they play with anyone. Like they're on some really weird lineups, and clearly just go out there, don't give any fucks, and just hold their own. So yeah, all play to them. They're absolutely amazing. So yeah, this is Choke.
before we get into my number 6, we've got another listener email. So this is from Richard Hazel. I'll put this into a descending order. So 10, Conjurer, Meyer. 9, Palm Reader, Braille. 8, Greyhaven, Empty Black. 7, Willhaven, Huerta. 6, Fit for a King, Dark Skies. 5, Monuments, Phronesis. 4, Black Peaks, All It Divides. 3, Ghost Key, See Through This. 2, Vex's Ancient Geometry, and his number 1 for 2018 was Silent Planet, When the End Began, which is a great album as well.
I was going to say, you just mentioned that the last show, didn't you? And I've not listened to it yet. Yeah, cool.
It is a phenomenal album, and again, it was going to be my joint number 10, but I just decided, no, I'll keep it as 11, and I couldn't squeeze it in.
Nice to see Willhaven in there as well. I kind of wanted to get Willhaven in, and it's one of those albums that I think is amazing, and I just didn't go back to it, and then didn't kind of recap it at the end, so it's not made the list, unfortunately, but it is amazing, yeah.
Do you want to do another one, or do you want to...
do your 6.
6.
Yeah.
So, my number 6 is Thrice, Palms.
Oh, cool. Good.
I love this album, and I love this band, and I think this is one of the strongest albums they've done in the last sort of 10 years, maybe, bearing in mind that they were on hiatus for 3 of those years.
Yeah, about 3 years, yeah.
But yeah, I think that, if you think of like their early, they so far have sort of 3 distinct musical periods. There's sort of like their early period up to Artist in the Ambulance. Then they've got their sort of like maturing period from Vahaizu onwards.
Yeah, and the Alchemy Index stuff, yeah.
Yeah, and then they've kind of got their...
It kind of went a bit more stripped down, didn't it?
Yeah, and then they've hit their sort of like stripped down period and parenthood, I would say, where, you know what I mean, where they're sort of, now they're just touring when they want.
Yeah.
They're writing the album that they want. There's no pressure on them to deliver an album each year or whatever. They're just writing when they want in their own studios when they want them, you know. So of the sort of third era of this band, I think this is the strongest album that they've managed to put out. So, you know, that sort of floors things like Major, Minor, Beggars.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah, so, but, you know, it's also the strength of some of the singles that they have on this. And again, it's just that sort of additional creativity that it's so nice to see sort of come into this album. Because, like you said, the last few have been severely stripped down. Whereas this one, they're introducing sort of a few more electronics or, you know, Moogs and just sort of trying slightly different things. But having fun with it, as opposed to, you know, like some bands feel the pressure of having to experiment to expand their sound. This feels like a band just playing about and like, let's just write the strength of a song, as opposed to, like I said, on some of their more recent albums, it has just been what is the bare bones of this song? This one, it feels like they're just like, they're writing, I don't know how else to describe it. Yeah, they're just sort of like seeing where the song takes them. And it reminds me very much of Vahaizu and the Alchemy Index and that sort of mature period.
His voice, I mean, as we'll hear in one of the voicemails later, his voice is just so good now as well.
Yeah,
it's gravelly, you know, it's so good.
Yeah, it's genuinely never been better.
No, I completely agree. I mean, I'll be honest, it's not in my list. It is in the bubbling under. I would put it. I'd put it at like 12 or 13. I love it. I reviewed it high, you know, when we did it. And Only Us is by far one of my favourite songs of the entire year.
Yes.
Now we did play that, so you're gonna have to pick a different one.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I was literally just going to say, like, that is Agreed. One of the best songs of the year.
And I also, much as I agree with everything you've just said, at the same time, if they'd have held the themes of Only Us and kept that, slightly John Carpenter-esque synthy thing and carried that throughout the album, that would also have been incredible.
Yeah, I think that's the only thing that now, since it's been out, is a critique of it. Is just like it would have been like, because that song is so good. It would have just been nice to have some of those elements appear just sprinkled throughout some of the other songs. But then again, this is kind of what I was saying about, like, they've just written songs that see where they go, and that just happened to be one that was more electronic. But I think that the concept of that could have crossed over nicely into some of the other ones, tracks on the album. I guess I will go with Beyond the Pines. I really like that as a closing track.
That's a nice track, that,
yeah.
Somewhere down the way, there's a hidden place that all of us could find. But all the maps have failed to venture through the veil and realize these roads are intertwined. Far beyond those walls, gleaming black and white, further than our false schemes of wrong and right, to feel where we can walk, leaving all our names behind. And I will meet you there, beyond the pines, templed in twilight or dawn, the light and easy air, tracing the lines on our palms. Somewhere down the road, to a place that we can go, where everyone and everything's divine. And when we're all awake, we can finally make an end of these divisions in our mind. Far beyond those walls, gleaming black and white, further than our false schemes of wrong and right, to feel where we can walk, leaving all our names behind. I will meet you there, beyond the pines, templed in twilight or dawn, light and easy air, tracing the lines on our palms. Yeah, I will meet you there, beyond the pines, templed in twilight or dawn, light and easy air, tracing the lines on our palms. And I will meet you there. Don't go to sleep. Our souls and feet both there. The grass beneath. Both we meet and swear are vast and deep. Our breath will be our prayer, alone, complete. I will meet you there, beyond the pines, templed in twilight or dawn, the light and easy air, tracing the lines on our palms. And I will meet you there, beyond the pines, templed in twilight or dawn, the light in easy air, tracing the lines on our palms. I'll meet you there.
Right, that was your number 6, Thrice. Now, we've already done my number 6 because that was Black Peaks, All That Divides.
We did indeed, yep.
So I will do a listener list instead. Let me just bring up my list. The next one I've got on here is from Connor.
Yes.
So this is from Connor. I'm going to reverse this. Number 10, Godsmack, When Legends Rise. 9, Muse, Simulation Theory. 8, Greta Van Fleet, Anthem of the Peaceful Army. 7, Mike Shinoda, Post Traumatic. 6, Plan B, Heaven Before All Hell Breaks Loose. 5, Arctic Monkeys, Tranquility Base Hotel and Casino. 4, Kanye West, yay. Alright, 3, Papa Roach, Who Do You Trust? Number 2, Perfect Circle, Eat the Elephant. And number 1, Ghost, prequel.
Cool.
So thanks for sending that in. So that's quite varied.
Yeah. Ghost is getting a lot of love in some of these listener charts, and so it's also.
I think that's the first time Kanye West's appeared in one of our end of lists.
Yeah, but also I'm surprised that Perfect Circle getting.
I noticed, yeah.
That one has got a lot of. That one's been featured so much.
I'll be honest, a Perfect Circle I would like to give a bit of an. It's not in my bubbling under, but it'd be in the honourable mentions because. As I said in the review, I think there's half a good album, but Jo loves Maynard, right? So she's got that album on all the time, ever since it came out. And the kids both like it. And the little one in particular, he's 4 and he knows all the lyrics to that album. And like, we can't go in the car without having So Long and Thanks for All the Fish. He sings along to the whole thing. So it kind of has been my soundtrack to the year, that album. So I'm quite happy to give it the honourable mention. And as I say, I think, as with most of their albums, there is half an amazing album in there.
Yeah, cool.
Anyway, thanks, Connor. Cool.
Yes. Again, all these listener submissions are going into our end of year goodie bag.
Yeah, it's good this year.
Reminder,
yeah,
we'll do that randomly picked at the end of the show.
So it's your number 5.
My number 5, eh? Well, interestingly, we did just talk about it. And it's Will Haven Huerta.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, good. I'm so glad Thrice and Will Haven have made it in.
I kind of missed it when it initially came out. And it was you telling me, because I think I'd been in your listening pile, you were saying, no, you really need to check it out.
Oh, it's so good. I did the opposite. I listened to it loads when it first came out and then just kind of forgot about it at the end of the year.
Yeah, so you literally just said no, go back. It's not like the last couple of albums. It's more in line with
Carpe Diem.
Yes. I was
Only nastier. I mean, God, as I mentioned it earlier in the year, I think it's track 2 with that bending riff. I mean, I could just listen to that all day. I think as well because I've got coming up are 2 really nasty albums, like that are just dark and weird and brilliant. And to have Will Haven in there as well, it just felt a bit much as well, maybe. But yeah.
No, I know what you mean. Whereas it was kind of, for me, it was just, okay, right, well, let's give this a listen then on your sort of recommendation. And it was just like, oh, Brady sounds angry. And I've forgotten the guitarist's names, just gone out of my head. Like, he's never sounded as mental as that in recent times. But on this one, he's just, like you say, he's doing all the bends. He's doing all those ugly, discordant, quintessential Will Haven things that I've kind of been missing from some of the recent sort of outputs. Like you said, this is just a really brutal album, and I hesitate to say a return to form. It's more just a sort of like coming back, just choking on and anger and venting. It's just that bleak hatred that Will Haven managed to pump out. So yeah, I was going to pick the one just mentioned, Winds of Change.
Did we play that? I can't remember.
I don't remember.
don't think we did, you know. I think I just mentioned it.
Yeah, I think it was just in your listening pile.
Cool, brilliant. Well, yeah, this track is just filthy.
So, yeah, Will Haven.
So my number 5, and I'll be very surprised if this isn't in your list, is Night Verses from the Gallery of Sleep.
Yeah, that's in my chart.
So do you want to talk about this later?
Yeah.
We can leave that. Yeah, that's fine. Cool. Okay.
Okay.
So in which case, let me find another listener. I've got Rob as the next one. So this is from Rob, or Robber as he signs it. Here, hi Matt and Pete. Thanks again for a great year of shows. Here is my top 10 for 2018. Number 10, Beartooth, Disease. Number 9, Palm Reader, Braille. 8, Anal Nathrak, A New Kind of Horror. 7, Conjurer, Maya. And he says, thanks to you on discovering these. Cool. 6, Tesseract, Sonder. 5, Ghost, Prequel. 4, Parkway Drive, Reverence. 3, Architects, Holy Hell. Number 2, Perfect Circle, Eat the Elephant. And number 1, Rivers of Nihil, Where Owls Know My Name.
Cool.
So, yeah, very good.
Thank you, Robert. So, my number 4, we both get to talk about this because this was your clash at number 8. So this is Limbs.
Oh, cool. Okay.
It's my number 4. So the album's Father's Son. These guys are on Unified, which is an Australian label. And I remember talking to you or mentioning to you when I first found them, like, worth checking out because it's like...
Yeah, because I don't think we actually played a track. I went back and I couldn't find one. I think we just talked about it.
They were just on my listening pile. It came out...
April.
It was like the first couple of months. It was either January or February of.
Oh, over there, yeah. We got it at the end of April in the UK.
Okay, because I just remember it coming on. Like, I'm subscribed to the Unified YouTube channel, and they just uploaded a track each day. So I think they uploaded track 1 fed. And I was just like, whoa, what's this?
Well, it was you mentioned, obviously, again, it has that kind of Norma Jean kind of vibe in places, but then it was you mentioning, but then it'll go Radiohead.
Yeah,
and I was like,
kind of cross between Radiohead and Norma Jean.
They managed that balance so well. Now, that is kind of missing from that great. So it's like Greyhaven album's ace, but this is that with the beauty of Radiohead in between. And those soft songs are amazing.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It doesn't sound possible because you think, yeah, but you can't marriage that up correctly. You have to be
they've balanced it well as well.
Yeah, and I think it's the strength of the vocalist. Like, he has that sort of Tom York sort of bleakness,
melancholy to his voice.
Yeah, when they hit those melancholic moments, then he has that aggression whenever they hit the more doomier moments.
Yeah, no, I'm very grateful to you on this, mate, because I absolutely adore this album. I think it's amazing.
Yeah, the thing is, like, I listened to this a lot the early half of the year, and then just kind of forgot about it over the summer because there were some other bigger albums that came out.
I'd kind of put it on my USB in the car.
Cool.
And it just kind of kept coming on, and it's so good. I ended up listening. It's not that long, but I ended up listening just all the way through every time.
Yeah, and for the last, like, this was drawing closer, I had the joy of being reintroduced to it. It was just like, oh yeah, I forgot this album came out, and again, it's just that it's still. I mean, I was even listening to it last night, still kind of like...
Yeah, I had it on the way to the club last night, yeah.
How have they managed to do this? Because those somber moments come out of nowhere.
It's not just a bit of post-rock that doesn't go anywhere. Those soft songs have hooks. Like, you'll be singing along with the soft songs. They're that good.
Yeah.
No, I absolutely love it. I mean, and we didn't play a track. I mean, I'd put down... Homestead, which is later on in the album, Father, Son, or ABBA, but whatever you want is cool.
Oh no, well, I think you should choose because
Homestead has a nice mix of a bit of everything, I think.
Yeah, I think that it was that one or Tangled Hearts. But yeah, I mean, the whole album's brilliant.
I need to buy this, actually. I need to get a finished copy of this. Cool, okay, here you go. This is Limbs.
Creating something where there is nothing.
Okay, so my number 4, and again, this is a band that we played earlier in the year, and this band, it's spelt L-L-N-N. Apparently it's pronounced Lynn. And the album is called Deads, which came out on Pelagic on the 27th of April. Did you ever listen to this properly?
I did, yeah.
This is just one of the heaviest, nastiest things I've heard in a long time. And I've just kept listening to it ever since we played it on the show. I just love this album. It is so dirgy and heavy and brilliant. And again, every time I put it on, I'll do the whole album start to finish every time. So just nasty and fun and brilliant. I don't know really anything about the band. I don't know their previous stuff, but this album has just really struck a chord with me this year. So yeah, that's all I've really got to say about it, to be honest.
Fantastic.
It is brutally heavy and a lot of fun. Now, we played Not Parallel, so I'm going to go with track 1. This is called Despots. Right, guys, we're just going to put a quick edit in here because the show is just too big. So join us for part 2.
Over Macho Grande?
No, I don't think I'll ever get over Macho Grande.